Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
Hello, it's your favorite president telling Todd Huff listeners about Mega Milk Protein Powder. That's what we're calling it, Mega Milk. It's protein for patriots, okay? American-made Mega Milk destroys dad bods and builds a big, beautiful wall of mega muscle on your entire body. So true. Don't buy protein made in China. You'll be a total disaster, a weak loser. Your workouts are winning. Drink Mega Milk. Go to MegaMuscle.com and put some Trump in your pump. MegaMuscle.com.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Ah, that's right, my friends. Last hour of the week. It's hard to believe. I know time flies when you're having fun. This is, listen, we're filling the void here. This is the fastest, as Rush used to say, this is the fastest 2 hours in media here at the Todd Huff Show. It's good to have you. Continuing our discussion this hour of this absolutely embarrassing testimony by NPR leftist, elitist, truth-denying CEO Catherine Maher, as she testified before a House Select Committee on Government Efficiency on Wednesday. A lot that we can learn here, a lot to be exposed, because this is the sort of stuff for people who act like the government is just, running everything efficiently, wisely, responsibly. There's no waste, there's no fraud, there's no abuse. For that crowd, may I introduce you to Exhibit A here. This is an absolute brutal testimony. She was exposed in so many ways by Brandon Gill, the congressman from Texas, first-term congressman, young congressman, 31 years old. He exposed her through her tweets. She didn't even take the time to take these posts down off of X. And she didn't read half the books. Apparently, she said she didn't read, or she read them, forgot about them, or she just simply didn't want people to know how much she filled her mind with these radically just anti-American, anti-truth books and content. Anyway, we're going to pick up where we left off, and I want to get into some other problems that were exposed, including the 100% of NPR's editorial board. Not 99%, 100% of her editorial board are registered Democrats, and there are no Republicans. 100%. 100%. And we're supposed to believe this is a taxpayer-funded organization that has absolutely no partisan position. They're just there to promote the truth, which she told us isn't really important because that's kind of an outdated, antiquated notion. And everybody has their own truth, she says, which is interesting because that in and of itself is a truth claim that would apply to everybody if everybody has their own truth. This stuff, none of this makes sense. Under the slightest bit of scrutiny, it crumbles before our very eyes. And so there's actually something else that first hour in preparing in the time between hour one and hour two, it's reminded me of something else that I've been wanting to share with you. There's sometimes things happen in the media narrative, or in this case, in a testimony before a House committee in Washington, D.C., that just, to me, illustrates something that needs to be communicated and exposed, and I want to do that really quickly. And then we'll get into other problems with NPR, with our media, with our government's way of funding this nonsense in Washington, D.C. So, before I do that, my friends. Let's talk a second here about seafood. Not just any seafood. I'm talking wild-caught seafood from the waters of Alaska, brought to you by Kenai Fish. That's Kenai, and that will matter here in a moment when I tell you where you can get their products. But their salmon comes from the pristine waters of the Kenai and Castleoff rivers in Alaska. Sockeye salmon, coho salmon, and king salmon. All that salmon is vacuum sealed, and it is shipped via next day air to lock in that fresh, just caught flavor. It doesn't matter where you are in this country. If you're landlocked, wherever you are, you can get this delivered to you fresh. It's not sitting on grocery store shelves or anything like that, not being transported by truck. It goes from the catch to the vacuum sealed packages to the jet to you, my friends. And so that is how you get this seafood. But it's not just salmon. They've also got halibut with its mild, sweet flavor. And they have shellfish, including king crab, including snow crab, scallops. Those are a product that will make you, my friends, feel like royalty, like one of these self-righteous employees at NPR. But Kenai Fish, who delivers this product to you, my friends, family-owned. They care about quality as much as you care about what's on your dinner table. And I know you care about quality because you tune into this program, my friends. So what you can do if you want to place an order, if you want to shop, see what they have, go to KenaiFish.com, Kenai fish.com. And you can use my name, Todd, as a promo code. You're going to save 15% on your order. KenaiFish.com, KenaiFish.com. You'll taste the difference, my friends, and you'll be supporting a company that shares your values. You will, in fact, be hooked, my friends. KenaiFish.com, promo code Todd. All right. So between breaks, between things I want to discuss here in this testimony, something stirred a thought within me that I want to share with you. And it's a thought that I think is important for us to understand. If you ever notice, and this can happen on any side of the political debate, but it often happens between liberals and conservatives, or leftists and reasonable people. There's an error that one can make in debate, if you will, called an appeal to authority. It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy in debate. It's a logical fallacy. So if you're debating something and you're trying to, get to truth, which again, I don't know what Catherine Maher thinks about that, but debate is trying to arrive at the truth. And so you're debating, going back and forth and all of this. If one side says, well, it's true because the fill in the blank says so, the NIH, the World Health Organization, it's the truth because the FDA said it was. It's the truth because the Consumer Protection Bureau says it was. That's called an appeal to authority. It doesn't add anything to the logic of the circumstance, the logic of the debate. It doesn't advance the argument. It's simply saying it's true because someone else who's smarter than us, who knows better than us, says it's true. Now, as a matter of just common sense, we know that there are people who know more about other things than we do. We can't possibly be experts in everything. But being an expert in and of itself doesn't finalize anything because a lot of reasons, right? I mean, how many times in the course of history have the experts been wrong? Do a Google search and find how many times in the headline you'll see something like experts are wrong, experts proven wrong, all this stuff. You see, it's not enough to just believe someone because they have credentials, because now you got to say, well, how did they get the credentials? Or better yet, do they have something to gain personally by making this claim? And you got to look at how the system is set up and you realize, look, it doesn't necessarily mean that if someone is making a claim, let's say the FDA, right, on the efficacy or the safety of a vaccine, just as an example, it doesn't necessarily mean If they say that it's safe, that it's not safe, it may very well be safe. But there's other context that we need to be aware of. Where are they getting their funding? I mean, if they're going to come out and they're going to say everything they test is not safe, will there be a decrease in the number of people that are having them test things and bringing things to market if it's only going to be shot down? My only point is saying there are realities that we just need to be mindful of. And saying it's true because Jimmy down the street says it isn't enough for me. On top of that, if you notice today, the left takes a lot of pleasure in this. And I think that this is one of the core differences between those on the left and those on the right. And it's connected to what I just talked about. The left takes great pleasure in saying, look, people who have more education are more likely to be liberal. So therefore, ergo, smarter people are liberal because smarter people realize liberalism is brilliant and the dumb simpletons believe in conservatism. That's kind of the argument. Now, here's my problem with that. Number one, anytime someone says to me, and forgive me if I say this, there's always exceptions to the rule, okay? But if I get a message from somebody, and some of you have to put this, hear me out. There's exceptions. So if you're taking the time to listen to what I'm saying and actually think about it, it's probably the case that this doesn't apply to you because you're being open-minded and you're being thoughtful in just considering what I'm saying here. But if I see an email or something and it's got a bunch of letters, right, a bunch of accreditations and so forth, one of the things that I think of at some point is, especially if it's two letters, if it's MD, that's not what I'm talking about. But you know what I'm talking about. Some of these signatures, and again, there has to be some places maybe you have to do this in your signature. But if there's like 3 or 4 of these things, my first thought is, who are they trying to convince here that they're smart? Because that doesn't matter to me. That proves that you have gone through a program and listened to people and paid them to tell you a bunch of things that they wish to be true. Actually, it's often taught by people who only teach. Now, again, there's exceptions here. Please do not, if you're listening to this program and you're in these professions, if you're a professor, for example, chances are you're a darn good professor. You have a level head on your shoulders and you're trying to educate and help your students. I'm talking about those that simply are there to push an agenda, which there are. And there are some people who can only be a professor because none of their nonsense works in real life. This actually reminds me, I sent this, or I forget, this was tweeted out recently. I don't know. Let me get to this really quickly. I'll give you an example. I'd forgotten this. This is on my phone. I texted this to Oz. I think I texted it to Oz. And looks like we've had a lot of messages. Well, shoot, I'm going to have trouble here. But there's a professor at Michigan. This was actually on X, on Twitter. Let me see if I saved the tweet. But there's a professor at, I believe, the University of Michigan. This was retweeted by libs, what is it? Libs on TikTok or whatever that is. She retweeted this. I'm just missing this. It's not here. But it's a list. It's the requirements, or I should say the accolades of a particular person who is a professor at Michigan. And it is absolutely absurd, the things that are put in this person's bio. I mean, I told my mom, I was telling her about this the other day, and I said, you would need a translation guide just to make sense of this. I mean, it is gibberish. It is talking about fem this, trans that. It's a bunch of crazy stuff, but this is what education, I'm not finding the tweet here. I thought I could just read you the credentials real quick, but I'm just not able to find it. It's buried somewhere on her Twitter feed. But anyway, the bottom line is, here it is. Shanna K. Patari, PhD. This is making my case perfectly for what I'm talking about. Shanna K. Katari, PhD, MED, CSE, and then in parentheses, they, them, theirs, is an associate professor at the School of Social Work in the Women's and Gender Studies Department by courtesy, and is the director of Sexuality, Relationships, Gender Research Collective. Here we go. Listen to this. This is how she views her, identifies her. This is who she is on paper. She's written this. A white, Jewish, non-binary, disabled, chronically ill, neurodivergent, AUDHD, whatever. I don't even know what that means. Polyamorous, queer, fat, femme. I'm just reading the words here, my friends. Their practice and community background is as a board-certified sexologist, certified sexuality educator, and social justice activist. I don't know what any of that means when you get down to it. Qatari's multi-methodological research focuses on three areas that often overlap: disability and ableism, including neurodivergence, MAD studies and disability justice, sexuality and sexual health, including reproductive justice, and queer and trans-affirming practice in behavioral, physical, and sexual health spaces. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of you right now have no idea what I just read. And you know what? I want to say congratulations for not being corrupted by the insanity that is in our world today. Some of you are scratching your head. If you don't know, actually, it's a testimony to your character if you don't, in a good way, if you don't know what that means. My point is that these are the people that are telling us what it means to be smart. And they think if they put the word neurodivergent into a sentence, or if they put, any of these other adjectives or descriptions. Polyamorous, that sounds very sophisticated. It's just disgusting. Queer, fat, femme. Femme is capitalized. Why? I don't know why. There, that's referring to an individual because their pronouns are they, them, theirs. This is crazy talk. I don't know what's going on here. My point in saying this is that these are the people that are identifying in the university setting what it means to be educated. Now, my dad had a term. That he would use. He still, I don't know if he does anymore or not. But my dad, as you know, if you've listened to this program, he he worked in a union. He worked at Allison. It was Allison Gas Turbine, and it eventually it was bought by Rolls-Royce. They made airplane engines and I don't know, just things for military aircraft is where my dad was involved with. But he was a union representative later in his career. And he would deal with people in management from Rolls-Royce or from Allison Gas Turbine at the time, whoever owned it at the moment. And he had a term that I've actually fallen very much in love with. And he said, they're overeducated idiots. Now, he certainly dealt with people who were educated and not an idiot, but he certainly also had his share of dealing with people who had the common sense educated out of them. Dare I say, the people who are formally educated who can make sense of what I just read you. Because if you can make sense of what I just read you, you're wasting brain space. It's occupied by something that is totally ridiculous, irrelevant, and not useful. Now, some of you might have to navigate these worlds. I got a friend who sells HIV medication, and he encounters some of this sort of stuff, and he's got to be able to navigate it. But you get my point. And so the left wants you to believe that education just means it's about credentialing. But you point it to someone like me, and I would dare say a lot of conservatives, and we say, if you're trying to convince us that you're smart because you lay down a credential on a business card, that doesn't advance your cause with me. I actually look at what a person says and thinks. And I'm telling you, some of the smartest people that I've ever met are people that have not, if they've gone to college, many of them dropped out. And again, I'm not saying that I know smart people that went to college. In fact, the guy who owned the horse farm I worked at, he was a plastic surgeon. arguably the most intelligent man I ever met. He was very formally educated. But I have also met people. Look, I live in a community that when I was a kid, this was a small farming community. My grandpa built his house with his own bare hands in 1967, right? Like there's different kinds of smart. And I would say it's pretty darn smart to be able to build your own house, even though you didn't go to college. And this is my point. College education has become this. It's becoming more and more this that I read to you, those fake credentials. And so I end up asking my questions. So what it does, it produces people, to tie it back to what we're talking about and why it crossed my mind to begin with. It ties us, or it leads us to people like Ms. Catherine Marr, right? Because she's been going through an educational system where she's been indoctrinated and she believes this nonsense. She was reading books. And listen, you can read any book that you want. You can read a book. You can read a book on reparations. It doesn't mean that you're a believer in it. I read stuff that I don't agree with all the time. In fact, you've heard me say on this program, it's not something I came up with. This is something that I read recently, and I love it. I say recently. It's been within the past year, I'm guessing. Time goes so fast. But it said this. It said one of the signs of being adult is to be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. To be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. So I can read things with which I will never disagree, but I want to understand. I want to be able to communicate with people. I want to tell people the reasons why I think those ideas are bad. And I can't do it if I don't at least understand where they're coming from. So even if it's completely from Wackoville, I can still do that. But she's not reading these books to analyze. She's reading these books, in my opinion, to virtue signal to the rest of the people in Congress, in the media, in the leftist apparatus that runs the seven pillars of propaganda. This is a way that you get their applause. This is the way you get their approval. This is the way you get their endorsement. This is how you find your way into those inner circles. And even if you lose your job at NPR, you'll get another position in some other whacked out organization, or you'll get some other position inside the deep state or something funded by these leftist billionaires, whatever, right? This is the way that it works. And I'm saying it doesn't work with me. I'm saying I don't care what your credentials are. I don't care what your education is. I do care about education, but there's informal education as well. There's people who are self-taught or that learn things in a way that a piece of paper doesn't come with it. It doesn't invalidate what they know. In fact, learning through experience is a powerful thing. If you've proven that the things that you've learned and can be put into practice to accomplish a goal or to achieve something or to improve your circumstances or whatever, that's much more powerful to me than a piece of paper that says I got a degree that now I can put these letters after my name. That's all I'm going to say about this because I'm out of time. After the break, I want to go back to this testimony. And this, again, the person answering these questions is a byproduct of this quote-unquote education system that I was just talking about here in this segment. But I have to take a break, my friends. Sit tight. You are listening to Conservative, Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
Take the guesswork out of gourmet. Playhouse Spices gives you a leg up weapon in the kitchen. Playhouse Spices elevates your cooking with gourmet, handcrafted blends made with clean, healthy ingredients. Explore exciting flavors and become a masterful home chef. Visit PlayhouseSpices.com and use code TODD for 20% off your first order over $50. Playhouse Spices. Seek, explore, taste. That's PlayHouseSpices.com.
Tired of store-bought produce? Ever dreamed of growing your own healthy food but worried about space? Exo Hydroponics is a perfect solution. Exo Hydroponics is a family-owned business run by a mother and daughter team. Their innovative Exo Tower lets you grow up to 28 plants indoors or out, using less than 2 square feet. Visit exotowers.com today and start your journey to growing fresh organic food at home. That's exotowers.com.
You know, another way of saying that, kind of what I summarized last segment, or what I talked about last segment, another way to summarize that is to say this: the person who knows how will always have a job. The person who knows why will always be the boss. If we seek to understand why, if we seek to question the things we're being told, if we just don't accept them because someone with the credentials or the grade book tells us what we need to think. I can't tell you how many stories I had. I had a professor that wouldn't grade my paper in college because it was an opinion piece and I cited the Bible. He wouldn't grade it. I had a professor tell our class Christianity was a good idea, but it got all blanked up. I approached him after class and said, "Hey man, if I said that about something else, I'd be kicked out of school and Channel 6 News would be here. Why do you think you can say that about my faith, about Christianity?" I got a lot of stories. This was 25 years ago. It is markedly worse today. Run by people who have the bio that I just read last segment of this Shanna Qatari, PhD, MED, CSE. And there's, it is the only place that people who believe these extreme things can be successful, I guess, is in this fantasy world of university education, or somewhere that they're insulated from their ideas actually having to work, because of course they won't work because they're miserable failures built upon lies and so forth. But they produce people like this system produces people like Ms. Marr, who appears, she isn't as radical in her appearance and her style and her approach. But if you begin to probe a little bit and see what she believes, go back to her previous tweets, go back to her previous speeches, you can suddenly realize it sounds an awful lot like you would expect it would if you've been programmed, if you've been indoctrinated by some of these leftist lunatics. So that's where we're headed here, and I'm going to play some more sound bites of her testimony. But friends, before I do that, let me remind you, every dollar we spend is a vote for the kind of America that we want to live in. That's why we launched here at the Todd Huff Show Freedom Marketplace. It is a free directory. Hear me say that. It is free for you to go to. This directory is a directory of businesses that align with conservative values. These people love America. These people believe in the America that was founded. These are not woke people. They're not out there supporting leftist causes and leftist candidates. They made a promise, in fact, that they would not do that. And if they break that promise, they're booted from Freedom Marketplace. So if you're tired of funding this woke agenda, which we've been talking about a little bit today, visit freedommarketplace.net. Again, that's freedommarketplace.net. It's free. It's easy. And my friends, it gives you the ability to work with businesses that are pushing in the same direction that you are. And by the way, if you are a business owner and you'd like to have a listing, we actually have a special that expires here today, Friday. You can go to toddhuffshow.com/freedom for more information on that to sign up and to save 25% off if you do that today. All right, so now let's get back here. Let's get back to her testimony. Catherine Marr. She is now being asked questions about the makeup of her editorial board, this time being questioned by Congressman William Timmons. Let's listen to this troublesome exchange.
You're a rabid progressive. And do you not think it's a problem that your political leanings make it seem to the American people that you're not biased and you're not doing your job? Because you agree that your job is to have journalistic integrity, right?
Absolutely, but there is a strong firewall between the newsroom and anything that I do.
Let's talk about the newsroom. You have 87 registered Democrats, not a single Republican in your editor board. So, I mean, how does that work to give us the perception that you're doing your job of actually delivering unbiased information.
Well, I would agree with you that that number is a concern if it is accurate. I do believe that we need to have journalists who represent the full breadth of the American society so that we can report well for all Americans.
Well, I think that you are failing. I realize you've only been there for a year, but I just really think that while it is a small portion of your budget, you very much should expect to restructure your revenue streams, because I don't think that NPR is necessarily worth saving.
Yeah, I don't either. And it's not a huge percentage of their budget, but stop taking federal funds. Stop giving them money. So the question here was, why do you have 100%? Again, not 99%. Why is 100% of your editorial board registered Democrats? 87, in fact. 87-0. So we're not playing games with the numbers. There's not two people on the board who both happen to be Democrats who are moderate. That's not what's happening here. NPR is taking taxpayer dollars. It is run by leftists. It is used by leftists. This is a power that's been wielded by the left, managing and running the 7 pillars of propaganda to push their morally bankrupt worldview on the American public under the guise of facts and news and all of this. She says, Catherine Mars says, there's a firewall. So, yeah, we have a bunch of leftists running the editorial part of the agents of NPR, but there's a strong firewall. You can't get from one side to the other, right? So these firewalls designed in structures so that if one part of the building catches on fire, it prevents that fire tries to spreading into another part of the building, keeping it isolated within one particular part of the building so it doesn't burn the whole thing down and, harm more people and all of that. That's the idea of a firewall, except in reality, this is all, again, we're playing make-believe games here. We know, how many exposés by Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, who's no longer part of Project Veritas, but out there doing the same sort of thing. How many of these exposés, again, reminding me of the Impractical Jokers, do we have to see unfold before our very eyes that basically proves, or at least causes great concern, implicates people. That's the word I was looking for. I kept wanting to say implicit. When I speak, I got a friend. I've got a friend who, if you give him a word, he can, if you say refrigerator, in a beat of 1 second, he can tell you the number of letters in that word. It's amazing. It's, again, another type of smart, very intelligent, and it didn't go to college, by the way. Incredibly intelligent. Like a human computer when it comes to that stuff. And you can say bureaucracy, computer, refrigerator, Lexus, bathroom. And he just, it's boom, 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 right? And, but I can't do that, but I sometimes see words in my head, and I was trying to say the word implicate, and I was saying implicit, so I was pausing. I knew that wasn't the right word. Anyway, but how many times do these exposés have to implicate people in positions of power in the government, in an agency that's getting federal funding, your tax dollars? How many times do these folks have to be implicated and exposed for playing these games with us? There was an expose done here in my part of the state recently, where, I say recently, it was in the past couple of years, where school administrators were caught on camera, on hidden camera, basically saying how they try to hoodwink, confuse the parents and the taxpayers of what's actually going on in the schools. So if they find, for example, let's say critical race theory is a term that people know and they don't like, and if they see something that fits that description, they're going to lose their mind. So they just change the terminology. Right? They don't call it critical race theory. This is what the left does. It's like nailing Jell-O to the wall. Right? It's why they don't want to define what a woman is. The second you define something, we can start saying, well, that's not that. So they don't want to define it because now they've given something that's actually substantive to people to inspect, to criticize, and to poke holes in. And they realize every time that the left gives us something substantive, it just totally and completely falls apart. And so they play these games instead. They don't define terms. They change words when one particular phrase becomes publicly untenable, unacceptable, unpopular, they'll call it something else, but yet do the same exact thing. And then deny that it even exists to begin with. I love when they do this about critical race theory. Well, what do you mean? What is critical race theory? Listen, you're the folks that came up with this stuff. I didn't come up with this. You're the folks who came up with terms like woke. Don't be saying that I did this. You're the ones that did this. You're the ones that are trying to redefine things. You're the ones that are trying to get people to think about these issues in a completely different and, dare I say, absurd way. You're the ones coming up with these terms. I'm just repeating them back to you, and then you're telling me I don't understand it. Well, define it then. Then they refuse to define it. It's one big game. And that's what we're watching here unfold with Catherine Maher and her testimony saying here that, yeah, well, we got 100% of people that are Democrats in the editorial on the editorial board. Nobody's Republican, but it's separate. It's separate. We keep the firewall. That sounds like she knows what she's talking about. Firewall, keeping it separate. She might have been able to throw in there separate but equal. Maybe that makes people think that that's important. She could have said half decade. That would have sounded really important. Maybe she could have said 407 members, right? As a score is 20. We got 87 members of her editorial board who are Democrats. She could have said, we don't have 100, we have 407. I don't know. If she thought it would help her, she probably would do this sort of stuff. This is the stuff that we're subjected to. The games, the inauthentic discourse. It's like, again, nailing Jell-O to the wall. I have to take a break, my friends. Quick time out, back in just a minute.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
At FurnitureMadeInUSA.com, we provide beautiful chairs, rockers, stools, and tables handcrafted by skilled American artisans in North Carolina since 1924. With every purchase, you're supporting American businesses, American workers, and their families. Don't just buy furniture, invest in a piece of American history. Shop now at FurnitureMadeInUSA.com.
Hello, it's your favorite president telling Todd Huff listeners about MAGA Milk Protein Powder. That's what we're calling it, MAGA Milk. It's protein for patriots, okay? American-made MAGA Milk destroys dad bods and builds a big, beautiful wall of MAGA muscle on your entire body. So true. Don't buy protein made in China. You'll be a total disaster, a weak loser. Your workouts are winning. Drink MAGA Milk. Go to MAGAmuscle.com and put some Trump in your pump. MAGAmuscle.com.
Oh, yes, my friends, I know it is a sad time. In fact, if I listen really carefully, I can hear the wailing going on out there. And I don't blame you, my friends. We're at the end of this week's program. This is the final segment of this week's program, and I can understand. By the way, if you missed any programs, first of all, let me publicly shame you for that. But secondly, you can go to our website, toddhuffshow.com. And you can listen. You can listen to anywhere that you can listen to a podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Also go to our website. And we will get our Rumble channel back up and running once we get this some technical issues figured out here behind the scenes. All right, so not a lot of time left here today. And I'm looking at some things. You know, it's hard to start something new, and I've said basically what I want to say about this testimony. I will talk about this really quickly. Whitehouse.gov. I've seen this talked about elsewhere, but I want to point this out. Headline here, well, it's on the White House's website, whitehouse.gov, and there's a news release, I guess. It says, another most wanted criminal captured by the Trump administration. Have you noticed Kash Patel has only been leading the FBI now for, just a few weeks, right? I mean, he wasn't confirmed until, I don't know the date, but not that long ago, a matter of weeks. Trump's only been in office for, 9 weeks now. And Kash Patel wasn't confirmed until several weeks in. So, but have you noticed that the FBI is starting to get people off the 10 most wanted list? This is the sort of thing that wasn't happening when Biden, it's just, what is going on? And this is a fair question. Here's what the press release says from March 19th. So this was a little over a week ago. Under President Donald J. Trump, the message to criminals to bring harm and destruction to our communities is simple. You will be found and you will face justice. And it's got a picture, FBI most wanted fugitive, Francisco Javier Roman Bardales, conspiracy to provide and conceal material support and resources to terrorists, narco-terrorism conspiracy, racketeering conspiracy, alien smuggling conspiracy. This is the rap sheet on this guy. This is what they're looking for him, or the reasons why they're looking for him. And they got him yesterday. That would have been March 18th. Federal FBI Director Kash Patel announced the capture of yet another fugitive from the 10 most wanted list, initiating the extradition of a key senior leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, Francisco Javier Roman Bardales, from Mexico to face charges in the United States. Roman Bardales was wanted for, quote, his alleged role in ordering numerous acts of violence against civilians and rival gang members, as well as his role in drug distribution and extortion schemes in the United States and El Salvador. The cold-blooded criminal is the third fugitive on the FBI's 10 most wanted list apprehended since Trump took office. I mean, we're blowing through. We're going to need a whole new 10 most wanted list when this thing is all said and done, because we have an administration that's serious about law enforcement. They've also listed the other people that they have apprehended on the 10 most wanted list from the FBI. Arnaldo Jimenez, a fugitive wanted on first-degree murder charges, was arrested on January 30th, 2025. Donald Eugene Fields II, a fugitive wanted on child sex trafficking and child rape charges, was arrested on January 25th, 2025. The Trump administration will stop at nothing to keep the American people safe. This is what we need from the executive branch. I mean, this is immediate, right? This is immediate response or immediate action. We're talking weeks here. We're talking a matter of weeks. Friends, real quickly here, as we're getting to the end of the program, I know you care about this country, but you can't fight for America if you're not taking care of yourself. That's why I'm telling you about Solti. Solti is an all-natural, clinically proven supplement. Science has spoken, has proven that it lowers cholesterol safely. No prescriptions, no doctor visits, just a couple of Solti soft gels a day. It's not a drug, but it does work, my friends. I take it, and I think you should consider taking it as well. We need healthy, strong Americans, not just for your family, your faith, your business. Those things are important. Those things are paramount. But we need them, we need you for this great nation as well. Don't let high cholesterol slow you down. Go to Solti.com. That's SOLTEA. Promo code Todd will get you 50% off your first 3-month supply and get you free shipping. It is a very affordable, great place to start taking care of your heart and cholesterol health. Solti.com. Promo code Todd. All right. So, nearing the end of the program, I can just mention this. I think I hit on this very briefly earlier. The state of Massachusetts has been releasing, if you want more information, you can listen to the Todd Talk. But basically, the state of Massachusetts has been caught, and there have been documented examples now. The left says that Trump's going after kids in classrooms on his deportation, processes. In reality, he's targeting exactly who he says he's been targeting, criminal, illegal aliens. And some of these folks are being arrested by states who are providing sanctuary. They won't turn these people over to ICE. Instead, they're releasing them on bond. people who have been charged with things like child rape. I'm out of time, though. Gotta go. SDG.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
Seeking natural solutions for your health and wellness? Look no further than Garden Root Remedy. We offer handcrafted herbal tinctures, salves, teas, and more made with only the highest quality organic herbs. We provide personalized consultations to help you find the perfect herbal remedy for your specific needs. Experience the power of nature's healing touch. Visit Garden Root Remedy online at gardenrootremedy.com. That's gardenrootremedy.com. Rooted in nature, blooming with wellness.